There's been a new release at UserTesting. That means great new functionality for me to tell you all about. And this one is a big one. There's a brand new quantitative test type at UserTesting called the interaction test. And it didn't just come by itself. It's got the QXscore from UserZoom integrated right into it. It has new screener options integrated right into it. And it also has new test type options integrated right into it. There's a lot to get through, so make sure you stay for this whole video, because if you want to see the screener stuff and the test stuff and the QXscore and everything else, you're going to want to watch the whole thing. Here we go. This is the dashboard for UserTesting. You're familiar with it, but what you're not going to be familiar with is the great new options under the Create a Test button right here. You can see the options are pretty much the same. The design's a little bit improved, and now you can see underneath unmoderated test, you've got Think Out Loud test, which is your traditional UserTesting unmoderated test, and then you have the interaction test, which tells you it's new. Then you've got your surveys, your live conversations. The test template library is now here called out a little bit more explicitly, so you can get to it from the navigation over here, or you can get to it over here to start a test, and then you have your video upload capability. Today we're going to focus on the interaction test, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click that. Just like in the survey builder, you can see this new design of the interface. You've got your test builder, your audience, review, sessions, and results. For the first part of this video, we're going to focus on the test builder and the audience. Then we're going to jump into a completed version of an interaction test, and I'm going to show you the actual sessions and the results. Sessions, there's not going to be too much to see, I'll tell you in advance. But let's go to Add in our test builder. You can see here's an instructions task. If you want to give guidance right up front, you can throw in some instructions right here, telling people at the top what's going to happen. This is very much like a scenario in your traditional user testing test. You put that right here. Then you can add one of these many question types. So the one that I'm going to show you right now is the multiple choice type. When you go into multiple choice, it's going to seem very similar to what you're used to. You've got your question text where you type out your question. Then you have your answers with your single select and your multi-select. But you now have an option to randomize your answers. So if we say randomize, it's going to randomize the ordering of the answers. This is something that has been very much requested from the user testing user community. So that is now here. There's also the ability to add another option, which is there. Down below, you're going to see this additional option, which I've discussed before, add logic. This allows you to add branching logic to your study. And typically, you know what? Why don't I build out a couple of questions really quickly, and through the magic of editing, in a blink, it's going to show you how to use branching logic. Here we go. All right, so now I've got a multiple choice question that is filled out. What are you going to buy this year? You can see there's 5 options here: a car, a house, a computer, swimming pool, or other. Now what I can do is, because I've added a couple of extra questions here, question 3, why are you going to buy a car? Question 4, why are you going to buy a swimming pool? And then question 5, how likely are you to make this purchase? What we can do is we can go in and add logic. So here on question 2, I'm going to add logic. And I'm going to say, if the answer is a car, then we're going to go to question 3. Add another rule. If you're going to buy a swimming pool, we're going to go to question 4. And then add another rule. If the question answer is house, go to question 5, and add another one. If they're going to buy a computer, they're also going to go to question 5. And then since we've also had the answer of car go to question 3, we're going to go down to question 3, and we're going to add logic, and we're just going to say, no matter what, you're going to go to question 5. So now we have used branching logic to structure our multiple choice question with multiple points that you're going to follow up on after they give different answers. So that's just a little bit into the multiple choice question. You will have noticed that down here on the left side, there are a couple of other types of questions that you might not be familiar with. You have the matrix question, which is in the survey test type as well, but you can use it here. A matrix question is where you ask one question, you give a header sort of line, and then you have a bunch of rating scales all grouped together about a particular thing. So you might say, here's a bunch of things that we're going to tell you about your car or ask you about your car. please just select the appropriate answer. And then it might say comfort, quality, fuel economy, and all these things you'd rate from, whatever label you want to give. You can do custom labels here. How satisfied you are, not very satisfied maybe, might be a good one. So you can put those in for your matrix question and you're going to get a really nice, beautiful output. Just above the matrix question is another new one. That is the NPS score. The NPS score, also known as the Net Promoter Score, is where you are going to ask the question, how likely is it that you would recommend our business to a friend or colleague? Now, you can tweak this, and you can have it say our website or our mobile app or whatever it might be, but this is the question that you have, and it will actually, you can see you cannot edit the options here because it's very specific in terms of what is required to generate an NPS score. So this is also available in the survey test type, but it is available here, and it is also available in one other way. Now I'm going to clean up this test just for this. Actually, I'm not going to clean it up. I'll leave it as it is. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on navigation task. Now navigation task is very much like a task in an unmoderated study where you simply, you give it a URL and you're going to have your task instructions. Unlike the unmoderated test type, the standard think out loud test type, there's not a URL task that you're going to give, and then you're going to say some extra instructions on a next task as part of a thing to go do. It's all included together in one task here, make it a little bit easier. So you type in your URL, you type in your instructions, and then this is where it gets different. You have the option to add a success URL right up front. So you can tell it, if it goes to this page, if the participant goes to this page, that is going to be a success. Mark it as a success. You have the ability to do an exact match or a partial match. Sometimes we have pages where there is an extended set of variables after the page name, and that's not really relevant. If they get to the page, that's success. But matching everything exactly is going to be difficult. So you can go here and say, if it contains this series of characters or this slash whatever, that's going to be a success. And in the output, you're going to see it is very important, when you just define the success up front, to get the success criteria. In the think out loud test currently, you run the test, you look at your interactive path flow, and then you're going to select the pages in your interactive path flow that were success. That's very different here. Here, you're just going to mark it down below. Underneath every task, you have 3 popular follow-up questions that you can choose from. How confident are you that you completed the task successfully? How difficult or easy did you find that task? And please explain your answer. And then you can add your own follow-up questions as well. I've shown you pretty much everything now here in the interaction test plan builder, except for the QXscore, which is in fact a combination of these elements. So I'm going to click QXscore, and it's going to throw that in right at the bottom here. The QXscore here has, you can see the white wrapper around all of the tasks that are relevant to the QXscore. I'm going to scroll back up, but I just want to show you, it's important to know that all these tasks are required. Everything inside this white enclosed area here is required for a successful QXscore. The first is a navigation task, which I just showed you up above. You've got your follow-up questions and the ability to add follow-up questions. Then you have a second navigation task. You have to have at least 2 navigation tasks for your QXscore, and the same set of questions comes after that. You can add more navigation tasks, but you can go with just 2 if you like. But like I said, you can always add your own follow-up questions that you want to write, and I'm going to show you a demonstration of that in just a second. Down below, you have your attitudinal responses. Now, I didn't mention this. I assume that you already knew it. Bad on my part. But the QXscore is a singular metric that is a combination of behavioral data, the success metrics from your navigation tasks, and then your attitudinal data, which is the data that I'm on right now, which is the participants' answers to some survey-style questions after they've completed their tasks. They have to do with things like trust and appearance and loyalty, stuff like that. I'm going to show you the output exactly when I get to the output in just a second. So you have those down here. It is a matrix question where you have one overview statement and then a bunch of things here. It's easy to navigate within the website. The information is trustworthy. I will likely return in the future. Now I'm going to move over to our audience builder. The audience builder is exactly the same as in the survey functionality, but there are a few new capabilities that I did mention in the intro that you're going to want to pay attention to. So I'm going to say add. Now add here is add an audience, not add a question. You can have multiple audiences, just like in a standard think out loud unmoderated test, but the one caveat here is that you can have both user testing contributors recruited from the contributor network, and you can recruit your own people if you choose in the same study. So I'm going to say add. You can see it's given me an untitled audience here with the ability to select from the user testing network or the invite network. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select user testing networks. Now it's given me all of the options to recruit and build an audience. How many participants do I need? For an interaction test, the standard is 25. You might want a lot more than that, but 25 is the default. And then you've got your target criteria. These are our demographic filters from the profile. Things like the country, things like the region within the country, which is a state, or in other countries it's something else. You've got the languages, age, gender, parental status, etc. All the way down, we scroll down until we get to our screener questions. We can add a screener question here. You are going to see, just like in the multiple choice question that I showed before, there is the ability to randomize the answers to your multiple choice questions. There is the ability to add branching logic to your screener questions as well. Now in the test builder, I built out questions in my multiple choice that were kind of like screener questions. Imagine those exact same questions about what are you going to buy, just put them here. The additional thing here that I want to talk about is this add other option, because it has a very interesting functionality. If I say add other, you saw me do it before. But if I hit add other, it gives me this other option, but the participant experience who's answering the screener questions, they will be given an open text field to type their answer if they select other. So this doesn't have to be a disqualifying answer. You don't have to say disqualify here. Even if they pick other, you can still let them proceed, but capture data about what the other thing is that they wanted to answer. In the case of the what are you going to purchase, it might have been sneakers or clothing or something like that they would type in. But the other option, when you're using it for a screener, will give an open text free form field for the participants to answer. And as I just sort of said, when you're doing screener questions, it is no longer required to have a disqualifying answer. So you can have a screener question where there's no wrong answer. So that's fine. You can do that now in user testing. I'm going to have to do a little editing magic to show this. There's an AI function here that will check your screener questions to make sure that they are in fact good, not easily guessable, not too priming. So here we go, and click. Now I've got a question here very similar to a question that I showed before in the test builder, but instead of saying, what are you going to buy this year, and having a bunch of options, I just said, are you going to buy a computer this year, with a yes or no? And let's say this one would be disqualifying, like they have to be buying a computer. You can see this is now active here for check for common screener mistakes. So I'm going to go ahead and click check the screener, and you're going to see just how fast it's going to evaluate these screeners for you. Right away. Consider rephrasing to avoid leading people to certain answers. So it's letting me know this is too easily guessable. Are you going to buy a computer this year? We probably want someone to buy a computer who's buying a computer. And so the answer of yes is easily guessable. So depending on the different screeners you have, it will give you different suggestions. But this is a great new feature. And you can just build out an audience real quick and throw some screener questions in here and just hit check them before you build a live conversation or a think out loud study too, because those test types don't yet have this feature. So it's a great way to sort of self-test your screener questions, no matter what kind of test plan you're building. You do have an option for confidentiality terms. Instead of having an upload of a PDF, you actually have the ability to just type in a description, have a checkbox, put in a URL that will be clickable to get to pre-existing terms which are hosted outside of user testing. So you can have your own terms that are used over and over and over again, and they're just put here in the customizable text and the confidentiality terms, so you can ensure they're always the published version that you have on your site, hosted somewhere for reuse. One last thing that I want to note is that when you use the invite network for an interaction test, you're going to have an extra set of options. Now check this out. I clicked on the invite network, invite with a link, and you'll notice now there's an option to add screener questions. So when you're using the invite network for an interaction test, surveys as well, you can put screener questions in front of the participants. So when they click the link to take your test, they're going to see screener questions if you so desire. So this is a huge advancement. It's not just anybody who clicks is in my study regardless. It's only those people that pass the screeners, just like if you're using the UserTesting Contribute Network. Huge advancement for the invite network, and hopefully you start using it right away. But now let's get into an actual completed interaction test so you can see what that looks like. I'm now in an interaction test. You can see it's called Hertz QXscore. As you know, probably if you've watched one of my videos before, I did used to work for Hertz, so I use Hertz as a lot of my basis for these videos. Just easy and fun. I know the application extraordinarily well, and I know the business, so it's easy for me to run tests on it. I'm on the results tab here, but really quickly, I'm just going to show you the sessions tab. The sessions tab has nothing on it. There's no videos and think out loud, so it's just a list of the participants that did the study. I'm going to go back over to the results tab so that we can now see what the actual output is. Right at the top, just like surveys, but unlike think out loud studies, the output of the demographics for the profiles of the respondents is aggregated at the top of my results tab. The results tab is very much like the metrics tab. So you can see that here. I've got my audiences that came from United States. Then I've got my demographics that I can break them down. It just shows me country right out of the gate. This was a requirement. So everybody, this was the only one that I selected as a requirement. So that's the only one that's shown. But if I want to, I can show all demographics. What states were they from? You can see above, this is the region. In this case, it's states. Down below, what were the ages? What was the genders, the language, etc. It's all broken down for you if you want to expand and see the data for your respondents. You always have the ability to filter the participants up here at the top or export the data for the selected filter. Over on the left, I can navigate directly past my demographics and go right to my screeners. Now, the screeners for this study were about traveling and renting a car. So again, people had to say they were going to be traveling. Yeah, there's a lot of options here. I can say show all my screener questions if I want to see them all, just like with the demographics. When I travel with family, I typically select all that apply. They had to select rent a car. People selected book a hotel 100% of the time as well. And then you have, when you say rent a car, what are you more likely to do? Actual car rental, or are you talking about ride share? Is that what you really meant? Now I scroll down to my actual test. Now this test was just the QXscore. The QXscore, as I told you before, I showed you before, it has all the other elements from the interaction test built into it. So I just wanted to demonstrate the QXscore, which brought me all those elements. So here we go. Remember, the QXscore is the combination, it's a singular metric that is the combination of both behavioral and attitudinal metrics that we collect in the study. So right here, we've got our two tasks. Our navigation tasks were task 1 and task 5 respectively in the test plan. And on one of them, we had a good result. 76% of people were successful. But on the other, we had only 12%. So we had one that was good, not very good, but good. And then we had one that was very poor. And so that nets out with our other metrics here to a 65 score, which is average. Now, it's always important to look within a metric to see what made it up, because we see, well, in that average score, one task needs a lot more work than the other. And that task, the first one was actually about booking a car, like getting to the quote, the checkout page for a car. The other was more about finding the nearest location to you and, can you get to the page that has the nearest location information. So as I scroll down, you're going to see those 4 attitudinal elements: usability, trust, appearance, and loyalty. And while most of them, again, scored good, like the appearance was good, the trust was good, and it shows you the questions that make up that element. But then you've got loyalty. And loyalty had 2 questions that make it up as well. So just like up above, where actually this was a 65, this is a 64, one question was, I will likely return to the website in the future. And that got 88% said yes. Then you had the NPS score. How likely is it that you'd recommend our website to a friend or colleague? And only 40% said yes there. So we have one situation where people are using it. So why would people continually use the site but not recommend it? This is something that we might want to follow up on in a Think Out Loud study, where we can get some qualitative feedback on top of this. So we can go in there and we can see why people wouldn't recommend the site to a friend or a colleague. Then we come down and we get to our actual results. Here's our behavioral results. Here's our navigation task, and here's the follow-up questions that I asked. The cool thing is you can still watch the task, although, like I said before, there's really not, the video component is more screen recording. It is not think out loud studies. So you can see if somebody stumbled and didn't click the right thing, you will be able to do it. There's no interactive path flow here. This is a quantitative study, but you can click watch the task. And now you can see it's loaded. It tells you there is no transcript for this video because it's not think out loud, but you can hit play and you can watch it. It's playing. The person's obviously just pausing. I'll move forward. You can see the mouse moving, and they're going to go ahead and they're going to type something in. I told them to pick Orlando. You can see things are popping up on the screen. They're very slow to type Orlando. They don't necessarily know how to do it. The first thing that came up was the airport, but they didn't know how to pick that, so they just typed Orlando. This is still very telling, even though there's no think out loud. If I want to advance, I can go to the next participant and just watch another video of that person going through the experience and moving on and completing the study. I'm going to close out of the video playback and just scroll down. You can see there's my tasks. Here's my attitudinal questions are here. And I want to open up that NPS score. So here, when I open up question 10, you can see the NPS score is 20. That is a very low NPS score. It could be minus 100, so it's not terrible, but it's not great. It's not even good. The NPS score it's very mediocre at best. You can see here your 9s and your 10s. These are your promoters. We had 10 promoters. Then you had 10 passives. They were neutral. They gave it a 7 or 8. And then all the rest were in the detractors category. And you can see those up here. So 40% promoter, 40% passive, 20% detractor. And again, those are very important things to know about the study, the website, the experience, what's going on. And you have down here a little bit, tell us why you gave that rating. And this is another huge thing in a quantitative study. You may have seen it in surveys, but you've got all of your written responses here, but we also have our AI themes that we can look at. Now, sadly, in this particular study, there's only 25 people. You do need at least 20 people to get themes. So you can see here, 11 participants skipped this optional question. The question is optional when you're doing NPS, so if you want to guarantee that you're going to get themes, you have to increase the volume of people. But I'm just going to show you again through the magic of editing what AI themes look like. This is from a survey demo that I do, but you can see here is 20 responses in this case, and I just go over to themes, and you can see how it's taken what is the most favorite thing about the vehicle you drive now, and it's actually broken it down into things like technology and features, reliability, fuel efficiency, etc. So with your QXscore studies, whenever you use the QXscore or when you use NPS, if you're going to do a follow-up question, because that question can be optional when it comes to the NPS score, you should increase the number of people to ensure that you get at least 20. Now we can always go back and we can go to our audience builder and we can add an extra 15 people to the study if we want to make sure that we get that data. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and do that because this is just a demo, but we can go in and we can always edit the audience to increase to get a more significant result. Same thing goes when you're thinking about statistical significance. You can go ahead and increase people if you want to get closer and closer to statistical significance. Sample size calculators are not on UserTesting. You can go over to Nielsen-Norman Group. They've got great sample size calculators over there for doing this kind of research. So that is going to be it for the brand new interaction test, the QXscore, the new screener options, and the ability to randomize answers even within your interaction test multiple choice questions. You got the matrix scale in there. The NPS score is brand new and it's in there. Amazing features for you to do new quantitative analysis to complement your qualitative think out loud studies in UserTesting. They're great complements to each other. Hopefully I see a lot more people using those options. That's going to be it for this tip, but don't worry, I'll be back again soon. Until then, I will see you later.